Initiative. Are you interested in becoming a hero? Go to heroinitiative.org to see how you can be a hero to those comic creators in need. Hey, how's it going, guys? I like how we have a different video upload for us every week, but we're back. The Modern Men we're live tonight. We do it live, pal, and I'm happy to be here. We have the biggest group in Modern Men history here to talk about Batman: The Long Halloween. So let's go down our usual suspects first. So, oh my God, Andy, what are you doing? Do you put like the chia pet seeds in that beard or what? It is majestically flowing tonight. How you doing, Andy?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, man. This beard is definitely getting so long, it's scary.
Well, it's kind of scary over there at the end. Drew, how you doing?
Look, man, it was nap day. Today was my one day off this week. I haven't put any product in this sucker. It's kind of hasn't seen a comb in about a good 18 hours. So we might have some birds living in it.
Oof, yeah. Well, we had a whole bunch of bearded gentlemen answer our request if they wanted to be on this episode. We had a whole bunch of people downstairs answer. So first off, we got Comics Explained. How you doing, man?
Oh, good, buddy. Glad to be back.
Awesome. We're glad to have you. Next up, we got Mr. Gretzky 9966. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing great. Can't wait.
And then last but certainly not least, we got John's Comics with Kids. What's going on, John?
Definitely least, and I'm very excited to be here talking about this great one of my all-time favorite Batman stories.
Awesome. Well, before we keep going, we need to address this chat because we got bad news. Chris Barrett, how you doing, Chris Barrett? He was first today, it looks like. He says, are we ready? Yeah, I think so. We got Animali Comics. What is going on, Animali Comics? Happy to see you back in the chat this week. We got Fuchsia Only. What's going on, Fuchsia? We got Comics Explained also hanging out in the chat, as well as John, as well as Mr. Gretzky. And Cowabunga, man, we got Ruben Guzman in the chat, and then some deadbeat robot that no one knows to sign into. He's still hanging out there. So if you guys are listening to this and enjoy,
shout out to the Stream Elements robot.
Yeah.
110011 1101 000110101.
Shout out to my 100.
Was the Stream Elements robot that put you up to commenting in one of my October Reads videos in binary? Yes. Drew's not responding in binary. All right, I do want to highlight this.
That's a lot of videos to comment on, Carson. Come on,
I put this in the chat earlier. If you guys would like to go over to the community tab, we have 2 polls going right now because last week's poll we started, it's still not settled. It was so close. And I think, Andy, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it might be tied up again. But the numbers I crunched right before I went live, here we go at the bottom. We got Spider-Verse was sitting at 30%. Immortal Hulk was 1 vote behind at 28%. Then the others, they're way behind. But if you call your friends and all that stuff, you can catch those up. But I'm just saying, Spider-Verse and Immortal Hulk, whatever is winning by the time we go to the share screen at the end of the show, that's what's going to win, and that's what we're going to read next week. So since it's so close and Thursday it was tied, I'm just going to leave the poll open until the end of the show so you guys still have time to vote and decide what you want to read or what we want to read next week as well. And while you're over there, stop by.
I got to stop you. Is Jason petting an invisible cat?
No, he's petting the crawl.
No.
It looks like a James Bond villain.
He's petting Black Bolt right now because he's the only one who voted for it.
Yeah, I'm the only guy. Actually, 2 people voted for Black Bolt. Yeah,
2 people voted for Black Bolt. Holy hell!
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to make sure I update that banner as the show goes tonight. So
thanks,
keep
Andy.
that banner live.
Yeah.
Sweet, we got
Chris Barrett. If you want to
Rican.
troll us, you can always start creating dummy accounts and vote up Black Bolt.
What's going on, Rod? Nice to see you in the chat. And yeah, like when I put it out there, though, I was like, if anybody wants to join us for Batman: The Long Halloween, I think this just shows how strong of a read this is. So I think this is the biggest response we've had to any read and just reaching out to, not only the Comic Corps, but the community as well. And, wanting to get people interested in reading this with us. So I kind of want to go down the line and just kind of get your guys's, like, what does this book mean to you? And what were your first experiences with it? John, I think I'll start with you down in the corner.
This is top 3 probably Batman reads of all time for me. I'm a big Batman year 1, so nothing's ever going to knock year 1 out of the spot for me. But what I usually look for is a Batman book that makes me have the same sort of emotional reaction as Batman year 1. So, this book definitely hits all the same markers. I think it's Batman solving mysteries. It's a variety of villains and no one villain. This isn't Joker War where there's just Joker everything. There's a variety of things happening here. I love the organized crime elements, and I think Batman almost plays he takes backstage to what I think is most important in a good Batman story, which is Gotham. And whenever Gotham is like the main character, I think you get a really great read.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gretzky, I know you were reaching out to Legend and myself trying to get on this show because you feel so strongly about the Long Halloween. So what does Long Halloween mean to you, man?
It's my number 1 best Batman book.
Nice.
Of all time. So, I probably remember back in 13, a buddy of mine was doing his channel. On his channel, he talked about the book, and it got me thinking. I'm like, well, this is an interesting story. What is this? So then halfway through his videos, I stopped watching them, picked it up, read it, finished what he was talking about it, how he thought about it. And it's just been something I've read almost every Halloween. So
awesome. What about you, Jason? I know you were excited to get this read for Halloween as well.
Yeah, I was. I want to say I read this a couple years ago when I first started reading comics again. And for me, I guess like all books, it depends on when you read it, I think, and what your mindset is going into it. Man, for me, I was really looking forward to this. Had a lot of hype in my head, and I remember it being really good. But then when I read it this time, it reminded me of like Hush. I don't like Hush because my first, I guess, book, bigger story, trade was Batman the Cult, Bernie Wrightson, and that was pretty dark and amazing. And then I read Batman Long Halloween. I thought that was great too, how you get an introduction to the premise of Rogues Gallery, and as you go out through the whole entire trade. And then modern day is Hush. People always say Hush is one of the best things because it kind of does the same thing. It's kind of when I read Hush, I was this is a rehash of Long Halloween, but not as good story wise, but better modern art. And that's why I think people love those stories so much. But I still like it a lot, and I think it's very interesting. I love the combination of the real world where you have the gangsters and the mafia families, and then they're being introduced now to the always weirdo villains, and you're what is this? What is Gotham changing into? That's a really different, neat aspect. Overall, I think the story is told. There's a lot of invention, a lot of creativity. Looking forward to seeing what you guys think as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I get to our usual suspects over here, I do want to hop in the chat one more time. We got Gore Vidal joining us. What is going on, Gore? He voted for Punisher, Max. Like I said at the top of the show, if you guys still want to vote on what we're going to read next week over the community tab, I put the link in the chat. And we also got Perry Comics. He's lurking with this weird smiley face. What's going on, Perry? Nice to see you in the chat tonight.
Moon Man.
All right, so what this book means to me, I guess my first interaction with this is basically the first trade I bought when I started collecting comic books again. So about 03, 04, I just ventured into a Barnes & Noble, and I decided to see what graphic novels they had, and I paid one of the few times I actually paid full price for a graphic novel. Because I
paid full price for a trade?
I didn't know any better back then.
Katie bar the door. What the hell's going on here?
So, yeah, I paid full price for this back in 2003, 2004. And I probably just sat down and binge read the whole thing, and I enjoyed it. That all being said, I think this read we did for Modern Men was the second read I've ever done for it. So this has basically been sitting on my shelf unread for almost 15 years. So it's literally been that long since I revisited.
Whoa.
So I was very anxious to see what 15-year-older me basically thought of this. And I was actually happy with the results. But I'll quit rambling because I want to hear. Drew, have you read this one before?
This is the first time I've read this in whole. And let me just say, folks, if you enjoy Hush, you'll enjoy its boring older brother, The Long Halloween.
I thought the same thing.
I thought there was a pretty funny joke to be had there because it really is just way too long. The pacing is fucking brutal. Beyond that, it's very, very enjoyable. Although the Tim Sale art isn't really what I want when I sit down to read a book of this length for this much of it. There are definitely very, very high highs and very, very low lows with the Tim Sale art. I'll say that. But the highs are fantastic and worth the price of admission. Some of the murder scenes, the black and white, that stuff is really cool. I just think that anytime he tries to do anything superhero-y or super villainy, it's just kind of out of his wheelhouse, in my opinion. But, it is what it is. I enjoyed this story immensely. It just it needed an editor.
What about you, Andy? What was your first impression of Long Halloween?
So yeah, this is my very first time reading it. And my first impression is this is the who's who of Batman villains with some great plot twists. And I subtly agree with Drew on the art. There were some challenges, but I felt like the art progressed through the book like he was catching a stride. There were some issues with some facial structures and whatnot, but I felt the art attaining another level as I continued on the book. I'll completely disagree with Drew, though, that I absolutely loved the pacing of this book. The pacing of this book was great for me. I loved how the story flowed and how each issue flowed, and I actually enjoyed this more than I thought I would. I went into this thinking this was going to be another Batman book, and Batman for me is a lot like Spider-Man. I care more about the characters in the universe than I do the actual hero in that universe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with the points on Hush. It didn't really hit me because, like I said, it's been 15 years since I read this, and obviously I've read Hush since then. But I feel like when I was reading Hush back in the day, it was just almost an excuse. And no offense to Hush, it's a good story as well. But I felt like a lot of it was an excuse for Jim Lee to be drawing all of these characters.
Yeah.
So we'd have to have the Poison Ivy issue so he could do that. Eye Candy, Poison Ivy, same thing for Harley, Killer Croc, so on and so forth.
It's a tour through the Rogues Gallery.
Exactly.
I feel like I'd trade where Tim Sale nails the mood in this book for a beautiful Poison Ivy pinup page. I just trade it any day, and that's not this. I mean, that's just personal taste at that point.
Yeah, like once again, I feel like this book and Hush similarities that just go through the Rogues Gallery. It's almost like fan service, but I think it's primely made for like those brand new Batman fans, and I guess also those who just want to see Batman's Rogues Gallery. But I think those have seen like a lot of the same stuff over before. We're like, can we get to the point and not like drag this on forever? Like, I don't know. Right. At times it feels like that, but.
Well, I heard somebody else, I did a couple of other watches of people other than us as they covered this book to get kind of a well-rounded opinion from other people. But I heard it compared to being like a direct sequel to Year One. And I think if you read it that way, I could see the introduction of all these villains needing to take its time. But for me, being somebody who's just like, this is kind of an out of continuity kind of Batman tale that for me it took too much time getting where it was going on just every front. I
feel you. Yeah, I think it was definitely stretched out, deconstructed. I forget what the term is for that for comic book writing,
right?
But Hickman was one of the ones to just kind of expand your story and put a lot of stuff in between. But it all kind of leads to a point. I guess some of this does too, and there's a lot of false flags, which every great mystery should have. I did not see the last villain coming. I think the number one rule in all Batman stories is new guy, he's the bad guy. So right away you kind of know, like any new character is like, the bad guy, and that's still not true. It still happened, but not who I was thinking towards the end. We'll talk about the twist later on, I guess, but good points.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, one of my favorite things about this book is its usage of all of the villains, because your main Gotham Rogues Gallery obviously they kind of have to be there because it's taking place in Gotham. Of course they're going to be involved. But I like how the true villains of this is basically the Gotham City mafia scene. And I just love all of the parallels. There are so many tributes to The Godfather within like the first 5 or 6 pages.
Yeah.
Like it's literally right there, like
Yeah,
the
my son's
shadowy
wedding.
figure. Like
Yeah.
I believe in America. I believe in Gotham City. So I drew that parallel. Obviously, they're at a wedding. There's a whole bunch of parallels that if you watch that first scene of Godfather and read issue 1 of this, it runs almost parallel to it.
I feel like a lot of Nolan comparisons as well for Nolan's Batman.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Nolan definitely stole
Nolan took
a ton from
a
this.
lot from
Oh,
this for the saga of Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
This is where he got that, not from any other origin. He got it from this here. And I think that a lot of what affected my enjoyment of this book was going into it knowing that it was a Harvey Dent origin story for the most part. Knowing who Harvey Dent is and having other, I guess, perspective on his character from other media totally spoils this book. Like, it's a spoiler. Harvey Dent is Two-Face. Okay, he's a bad guy. Okay, spoiler alert. He's the fucking bad guy.
I mean,
Right.
Gretzky, what did you think?
I was going to say, I think
go ahead,
Gretzky and I should jump in because
Yeah.
we really love it, and we need to shut Drew down.
You can try, but I'm always right. That's the problem.
Gretzky, you
Gift and a curse.
take a swing, and then I'll back cleanup on you. Hey, buddy.
Probably 'cause when I first read it years ago, it wasn't like it was like reading each issue, and then you like get to the point where you're like, okay, then you're like, oh, I know who the bad guy is, and then you realize that's not the case. And then somebody else becomes the bad guy, and you like change 50. It changed like 2 or 3, 4 times over for me until I got to the last issue. Then I realized, oh, I didn't see that one coming. You didn't know. It was like, okay, I didn't know that. And then being a Harvey Dent story, reading that, I'm like, okay, it's an origin story of Harvey Dent. I mean, you basically know that by reading the synopsis of the thing, of an origin of Two-Face. Like Drew said, you figure that out halfway through it. You're like, okay, it's what they said in the little caption here, and actually on the back of this, Christopher Nolan did give some kind of props to this book for his. He says it was a epic tragedy. That's what he called it. So he was with that, and then at first I thought it was because I was thinking about it when I first heard about it. I was like, thought it was a Calendar Man story. I was thinking first off, I was like, oh, it's got to be a Calendar Man story. They're talking about all these different holidays, people getting killed on different holidays. Oh, it's Calendar Man. That's what he does. So at first I thought that's what I was going to be reading, a great Calendar Man story. Then you start reading it and you find out it's a Dent origin story of Two-Face halfway through. And you're like, okay, that's what they're paying for, Then you got the sequel afterwards, which is a great book too. So
Yeah, wasn't there 2 more sequels after this one, or was there just 1 more?
There's
just
a
one,
prequel and a sequel.
A prequel and a sequel. Okay.
yeah.
It's let's see here,
Dark Victory.
Dark Victory, and Haunted Night.
So Dark Victory is the
I don't
sequel,
think I have
Haunted
Haunted
Knight's the
Night.
prequel.
Yeah, one's a sequel, one's a prequel.
Yeah, Dark Victory is the prequel.
Same writer?
Is the
Yeah, it's
sequel.
all Loeb and Sale.
Loeb and Sale.
Did you guys read those?
Yeah,
I've
I
read
actually read an excerpt from Haunted Night because I have the DC app, and I think they did them in 1993. It's like 3 trade or hardcover versions they combined into one. And someone can correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm incorrect on that. I read the first one, and obviously, I mean, you can tell like Loeb's art style definitely got a lot more stylistic between the time he did Haunted Night and then Long Halloween. I definitely prefer this much more over what I read from Haunted Night, and I just didn't get time
But Dark
to read
Victory
the other
is
two.
great too. Dark Victory is great too.
I need to read that at some point.
I need to reread that again. It's been a while.
So let me just say, like, those of you that watch Modern Men regularly, and I usually catch it on the replay because I'm doing other shows, but like I will say, going in, if Drew shits on it, It's a great book. That's just like, you know that top to bottom.
Yeah.
You know the show, you are fully aware. So now you know.
Look, here's the thing: is wait a second.
You had 3 monologues already.
It's okay. John settles for bad comics with kids has to know that there are reasons why I nitpick. Okay, I nitpick because I want things to be better.
Talk 3 times. Okay, finally, I get 3 monologues and I get muted. What's up with that? Clearly, he's working backstage on this. You can see the conspiracy here. The truth will not get out. He should be muted. Nobody's muting him. All right, now here we go. This is a great. Firstly, this takes 2 of my all-time favorite movies and uses them like thematically. He's still talking. Structures within the Batman universe. Number 1, obviously, they mentioned The Godfather. So well utilized here. The idea of organized crime, Batman working within it, his family history connections to the organized crime in Gotham. Amazing. It's called filibustering. I agree. Second, they use The Silence of the Lambs beautifully. And Calendar Man is Hannibal Lecter. That's the whole design of that. He gets to sit there and try to be this, like, he gives these long, great monologues to Batman, who is the Clarice Starling of the story. And he's trying to piece this all together to find the person who is sort of carrying on Calendar Man's story. Is the story perfect? No, we're not expecting perfection. But is it highly entertaining, top to bottom? Abso-freaking-lutely. And the way they use all those sort of film tropes to capture a story that really is so many layers deep, because the main heroes and villains are not Poison Ivy and Riddler and the Joker. No, the main heroes and villains are those characters who are at the core of Gotham. Bruce Wayne, the Falcone family, the Moroni family, like all these families that are at the core of the city of Gotham, because Gotham is the main character here. And watching all the villains, these like outlandish villains, are certainly like wonderful to watch. They're wonderful color to this whole universe. But at the core, the center, the root of this are these very ancient families that have always sort of been a part of Gotham. And the way Sale and Loeb kind of feed off of that is the masterpiece of this.
That's my favorite part of this, is the Falcone and Moroni rivalry. And then it's like so early Batman days, so you see like the rise of these new villains, these new weirdos. Like I said before, it's like the first time anyone's experienced it. Even the gangsters are like, who are these like creatures coming out now? It's all because of Batman. He escalated, so everything else escalated. But they're like these No Country for Old Men. You know, they're the old man. You know, everything's changing, and they're like stuck with all this weird stuff happening around them. Like that's my favorite part. It's so cool.
And I like how they also use all of that stuff to even rope in Thomas Wayne a little bit and Martha Wayne without having to see those dang pearls drop, like the great legend would say. So you get those characters involved, and you figure out that Thomas Wayne did something that may have doomed Gotham for years, but he would have done it again because he's a good man. And that's just from like a couple of scenes you figure that out. So I really like how Jeph Loeb works that in as well. So Andy, what did you think of all the mob families and that stuff? Did you enjoy these characters, or would you have rather saw more of the rogues gallery we know and love?
I greatly appreciated this this avenue in the storytelling of this Batman universe. Gotham City, the families. It added a lot more of that detective-esque Batman story that we've talked about in the past of being really good Batman read, right? Like Batman at his heart is a detective, and that is a lot more fun to read than some of the other avenues that they take. So I feel like what John and what other people have said tonight about Gotham City really being the central focus, I kind of lost sight at that first because I was so in love with getting to spend time with all of these awesome characters in what I felt was a well-paced story that you're right, Gotham really is the central focal point, and those older families really are. So
honestly, this is the rare Batman trade where Batman is a very minor character. Like there's a lot less Batman than normal.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of had like almost a 2-part question. And since Andy mentioned the word detective, I'll just go ahead and go into that. And Andy, I'll actually go ahead and start with you. Did it bother you that Batman is supposed to be the world's greatest detective? And I know he's supposed to be young in his career here, but the world's greatest detective couldn't figure out this whole thing with 1 year of research and development and these top tier friends like Gordon helping him. Did that bother you at all?
Not really. I mean, no hero is ever perfect, and Batman is one of the few that's always a little bit imperfect, and there's gonna be bits and pieces there. I just felt like I was so in love with the story and the pacing and the idea of the holiday killer that I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to the fact that Batman wasn't figuring it out. You know what I mean?
What about you, Drew? I saw you smile when I asked that question.
That's my number one criticism of this book. If he's the world's greatest detective, it took him literally a year or more to figure out who did this. Or, as the book kind of leads you to believe, he knew who was doing it all along and just let this dude keep murdering people. And his little dog, too.
That was going to be my second question, Drew, and you already beat me to it. Do you think that Batman, all great world-knowing detective, maybe let this thing happen so the families would just wipe each other out?
I don't think so. I think he did it more as he had this like soft spot in his heart for Harvey and his family, and he didn't want to believe what he knew was true. I think that it's just I don't know. It says a lot about the ending of this story. It's kind of very conveniently thrown together. And that's kind of the same way Hush works. And that's kind of the same way Loeb works overall. And I don't fault it for that. I mean, you gotta tack an ending on this thing, and you can't just let Harvey, be the only foil here. You got to let the wife come out with I was behind the framing of Fredo or whatever the hell his name was all along. I really enjoyed the way they utilized the mob families in this, and I think that was probably my favorite part that Nolan aped off of this whole deal, was focusing on the corruption in Gotham, because I like the idea that Batman comes to fight the corruption, and that all the freaks and fucking weirdos come to fight the Batman, and not the other way around. There weren't costume villains all over Gotham until Batman decided that he was going to be a costumed hero, and I love that take on it. And I really like all the pieces of this thing. I just don't like the way it's kind of laid out, the way it's paced. And again, that sale art is just so. We have some panels we can share, so we can talk, show what we're talking about. His highly stylized style.
You mean that this Tim sale, this epic 2-page?
Yeah, I love that.
I do like that.
That's fantastic,
right?
But go back to that Batman. That was the
that's our background.
Yeah, the background. Well, it's not good. It's just not good. And that's just my opinion on it. I think the way that he frames all the murders and all the violence is fantastic. Like the noir qualities of this are great, but like that Catwoman is fucking awful. It's terrible. It's just really bad. The proportions are off. The claws are so divorced from what humanity is supposed to look like. I think that it's a style choice, and it's one that for me doesn't work a lot with the characters that we are known for seeing in a certain light in action in Batman comics. I think, though, when you look at the way he deals with the noir elements, the detective elements, the way it's more impressionistic, kind of works for that story to keep you visually interested in it, where I feel like his style on the super heroic stuff just really clashes with the rest of it. And whether you respect that personal opinion or not, that is what it is. I think that, I love Sienkiewicz, but I know that Sienkiewicz isn't for everybody. And I think that this, I don't know if I'd want Sienkiewicz writing or drawing, this story. And I don't know if I like Tim Sale doing it either.
Right, but I would take a Jim Lee doing this, as a redo.
Dude, give me Jim Lee on all the
fucking... I'll throw $100 in there, and give me
Right, give me Jim Lee on all the splash
I
pages,
would like
and
to see
anytime
some
you want to
reviews done
do
by
like,
different artists, like different takes, like that'd be
and
interesting Kickstarter to
I'm
do.
going to
you
say
know?
this
like,
right now, like I just like the big bright splash panels do not work for me, but something like that silhouetted Batman, the use of shadow there is absolutely amazing to me.
too.
That looks so freaking good. But when you see Batman in the light and he's fighting Catwoman and his pecs are all jiggity jaggedy and scribbly scrobbly, that's not
Wait, what?
what I, exactly. Fucking what? And that's not what I want out of the Batman book. I think that if this whole book was like in the shadows, moody detective storytelling, then Tim Sale would have been perfect for it. I think.
Which I really want to read.
moment
that,
you
that
throw
black
those
and
big
white noir one, Barbarian has that version. If you want to hold it up,
That's Gretzky.
Gretzky. My bad. I said Kung Fu Barbarian. My bad. Yeah, that noir version's so awesome. I would really love to see like a black and white version. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think that the use of shadows in here is absolutely amazing. I think in the conversation panels that the use of unusual shapes for faces is incredible at times, but I just the bigger action splash panels just do not work for me.
Like Solomon Grundy. Solomon Grundy looked great in this book. But Mouse Girl, Mouse Girl, not Catwoman, because Catwoman wasn't in this book. Mouse Girl. I mean, the Catwoman looked just like a mouse the whole book for me. Really, the way the ears worked, and then the added whiskers, and then the really long, thin tail, it was screamed more mouse-esque to me. But those were really my only art gripes.
John, I saw you kind of do a facepalm while Drew was talking. What do you have to add to that point?
I think this is the one and only time I ever want to hear Drew say that he would prefer Jim Lee to draw something. Fuck that shit. That is cool.
That'd be awesome. I don't know, man.
I do not need more Jim Lee.
We all need more Jim Lee.
I do not need that. I wanted Tim Sale on this.
Boring art.
Is
Come on.
Godfather cinematographer style. He almost got fired from The Godfather because of how dark he made certain scenes in that movie. And I think Tim Sale went that same direction where he wanted to go as extreme as possible. And I dig the fact that this is not traditional. I dig the fact that this is a little abstract. I like the fact that they went a different direction and not typical Jim Lee crap. I mean, I enjoy Hush just fine, but it would not crack the top 5 for me. Whereas this book definitely, clearly, easily does. I think what makes this book interesting is the fact that these characters look a little obscure, look a little odd, look a little intense. I like the throwback to an older style of Catwoman costume. I like the throwback to a creepier style where these villains and these heroes are not full formed, right? This is a perfect follow-up to Year One, which I love. And everything is not the traditional style. And that's what I like about it.
Yeah, I think if I would have read Hush before this, I probably would have liked Hush better. It depends, you know what I mean? But I read this first, and I thought, like, I appreciated this more than I read. I feel like Hush was a repeat of this, you know what I mean? But I think if I read Hush first,
I feel like
I probably would have liked it
perfection
more
of
than
this.
Long Halloween, you know, because it was my first experience of this kind of like storytelling where you take the tour.
Well, when you look at it like this, I would say that Hush is kind of the Star Wars special editions of this. But instead they nail it.
Are you
they just nail it?
So you're saying you prefer Greedo shoot first? That's what you're saying right now. Is, Greedo, they made Greedo shoot first. It's so good.
What I'm saying is it's like that, except they nail it. Except it's just better in every way. Hush is better in every way.
He wants to see Harvey Dent replaced by Hayden Christensen.
I would, dude.
I got the high ground.
Oh, God.
Sand is coarse and it gets everywhere. Okay, that's just the way it is.
You know what? I think it's time to cut to the chat because let's go. We got backseat driver. What's going on, man? He says, "Hey, dudes, DruManchu said I should be here, so I had to stop by." We got
that's
the great
true.
Legend
I'm always
show.
Right.
What's going on, Legend? He is so happy those pearls didn't drop. We got some guy named Lion Den in the chat. What's
up,
going
Lion
on?
Den?
We got Gore Vidal still hanging out in the chat. We got K Titus, Konnichiwa. K Titus, how you doing? We got William Birds hanging out in the chase. Says troubled detective stories is the hero can only be as clever as the writer. Very
Jeph
good
Loeb's
point
not
right
very
there.
clever, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
We got Gummer in the chat. What's going on? He said something about Drew being right and paradoxes earlier. So yeah, paradoxes. Anna Malley says, I got to watch the rest of this later. Thank you for popping in the live chat. I'm sure you'll watch on the rewind. Nice seeing you in the chat nonetheless.
Don't miss BSD's last comment.
Yeah, Chris, Seawood, my beef with this also is that it took Batman like a full year to figure this out. Like the Batman in my head, no matter how early or Greenhorn, at least by like the third holiday, he would like got it down packed and said a whole entire explanation and like figured all the tricks out, all the riddles, and it would not have gone on for so long and not so many people would have died.
You know why? They were like, hey, if we include a murder on Arbor Day, we could sell more books.
Yeah, sure.
I know.
It's President's Day weekend. There's a sale on Gangland murder.
Yeah, I feel like if you were to write like that short of a story of a 3 holiday murder spree in Batman's time period and have him solve it and have it be like 5 issues.
It needs to go long enough for them to include the calendar.
You can have him go through like the largest existential crisis that Tom King he would have had, and you still have plenty of time to finish the story and make a mystery. Like
I think if you hit Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas and then wrap it up, that's not enough time to involve the calendar, man. There needs to be some obscure ass holidays for somebody to be like, wait a second, who knows about this calendar, man?
We're really all screwed on Guy Fawkes Day.
Except for me.
Yeah.
So is that May the 4th be with you or new ones and stuff? He's like,
National Toilet Paper
crossover,
Day.
Marvel Star Wars crossover.
Day. He's going to get all the Twitter. But anyway, let's get back to some questions here. So this was ultimately like the downfall of Harvey Dent. And with the character of Gilda Dent and her later reveal we'll slowly get into here. Did you guys buy this whole story of 13 issues being used as the downward spiral of Harvey Dent? Would you have liked to see more of Gilda involved in that and their relationship or lack thereof? Or are you guys satisfied with what, Loeb presented here? Gretzky, I guess I'll go ahead and start with you.
Probably satisfied the way he did it, but you could have probably got to the point where he wanted to put the guy on trial a little bit sooner and wrap that part up and became Two-Face quicker, maybe an issue earlier than what it was, than to lead you on for, I forget how many issues it was, 6 or 7 issues before he becomes the crazed, deranged man, Two-Face. So I would probably say move it a little quicker to the point where he becomes Two-Face,
Sure. What about you, John?
So I will say that legitimately Harvey Dent / Two-Faced is probably my favorite Batman villain. I enjoy the fact that he is the only villain that really represents both sides of Bruce Wayne Batman as well. And I like the connectivity between Bruce / Batman and Harvey / Two-Face. And I think that is the most sort of humanizing element. I think even Frank Miller, when he did Dark Knight Returns, knew that and dug deep into Harvey getting plastic surgery and that not solving Harvey's problem. This feels like the root of Dark Knight Returns in the sense that Loeb and Sale wanted to pull some of the genius of Dark Knight Returns and look at where it all kind of stemmed from. The fact that the scarring of Harvey Dent, as tragic as it is not the problem of Harvey, that the problem preceded that. And you see that in his relationship with his wife and the build of that. So any story that sort of mines the connectivity of Harvey and Bruce, or at least the Dents and the Waynes, I think is going to be something that appeals to me. And I like the way they laid it out. I think that the reason Batman couldn't solve this is partly because his heart wasn't in it, right? He didn't want to solve this. He didn't want to believe that it was Dent, and certainly didn't want to believe that the pursuit of capturing these evil criminals was actually corrupting the hero involved in the process. I think that bothered him because at his core, he's fearing the same journey. He's fearing that chasing these villains is corrupting himself as well, that he's turning into whatever he has been hunting this whole time. And I love that concept. And of course you have ultimately, in many ways, 3 villains committing these 13 crimes. You have 3 different characters doing this. And of course, that would throw off any detective trying to nail down one person for all of this, when in reality, it's 3 different people, all not without communicating, certainly committing all these crimes.
Sure. What about you, Jason? What did you think of Harvey's downward spiral?
Yeah, I mean that's a great fun ride to go on. I think they could have added a little more of the wife's dialogue, or the importance of how much Harvey leaving her, or whatever that relationship is, could have been more emotionally pushed. To have a more of an impact and reason for her to do her heel turn. For me, it feels like her admittance at the end is more of like a last minute thought, as in they're probably like writing issue 6. You're like, what if we just made it the wife? And you're like, well, can we add that in? Has she done? You're right. She hasn't been anywhere. Well, that kind of works out. But then but our guys told this. Okay, well, we can do that. Let's do that. So I feel like it was kind of like one of those things. But other than that, like even if they had it planned from the get go, I would have I think appreciated more of a strong relationship between Harvey and her, or at least on her part, at saying, "Oh, Harvey, don't. This means so much to me." Whatever, She says it every now and then, but it's not like pleading with him, where she would go on a spree. But I guess that would give too much on the take of who was acting suspicious. But I think it could have done better. But yeah, as long as as far as the Two-Face Harvey thing, it's just fun seeing him digress. And like John said, it was before he had the scarring, he had this attitude stuff happening already. And I think he committed those crimes before he was even like burned. So, cool stuff, man. I like it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with most of your guys' points. I still would have liked to see just a little bit more of Harvey and Gilda's relationship, because I think there's that one scene that it was really shocking, because for me it kind of came out of nowhere, where Harvey is sitting in his basement. He has no shirt on. He's just brandishing that gun that I don't even know if it's his or hers or the calendar, or it's just kind of so shocking because it comes completely out of left field, in my opinion. But you kind of start to think about it a little bit, and that's toward like the end of the book, and the book happens in sequential holiday order, and it's probably been about 9 or 10 months that they've had this rocky relationship. They've been debating having kids this entire time, which means that if it hasn't happened this long and they're still asking themselves that same question, not doing any decision making, that's probably not good on the relationship either. And the fact that Harvey now has that seed in his head that he's just like, I found this gun in my house. Batman reveals later that he saw the gunmetal shavings in the house. That means Harvey probably did too. So without directly telling us as the reader, he probably found out that in that scene that his wife was one of the killers. So that's what I kind of enjoyed, but I that made me just want more, I guess. But Andy, what did you think?
I can agree with everybody here pretty much, and take a little bit from everybody what they had to say. To round it out, I would have liked to seen a little bit more detail, much like you guys, and maybe starting the escalation. I felt like took a lot longer than the climax. If there was a little bit more climax there to that, I think I would have appreciated it more, and some more dialogue with Gilda. And is that how you even pronounce her name? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's Gilda, like Gilda Radner.
Because that was a very powerful relationship in the story, yet I don't feel like it was visited often enough.
All right, Drew, go ahead.
Yeah, there wasn't enough development for the relationship between Harvey and Gilda, in my opinion. And yet her involvement is very much shoehorned in to the end of the book. But that being said, I really, really enjoyed Harvey's descent into madness. I think that's the reason to read this book in the end. It's a Two-Face book. It's a Two-Face origin story. Does knowing that going in ruin a little bit of the mystery? Yeah, it did for me. Is the Tim Sale art not exactly what I want? Sure, no problem. But is it an adeptly told story? Yes, it's very enjoyable. I think that that enjoyability for me very much hinges on the depiction of Two-Face and his descent into madness.
Nice. All right, so we're about 45 minutes in, so I think it's time to completely unveil the killers here and give that a chat. So yeah, it turns out there's basically 3 holiday murderers here. So you have the son of not Maroney, but I always get their names mixed up.
Falcone.
Falcone, yes. So Falcone's kid turns out Alberto. Thank you so much. So Alberto Falcone turns out to be murderer number 1. I think he's murder. He might technically be murderer number 2. We're going to debate that here in a second.
I believe he's murderer number 2.
Yeah, so he may be murderer number 2. Murderer number 1 then would be Gilda Dent, and then technically murderer number 3 would be Harvey Dent as Two-Face. So Drew, since we're on you, we'll go ahead and continue. What did you make of all of this craziness at the end?
Well, wasn't the reason why Albert or whatever Fredo's name was? He killed in the first place. He killed one person, and then she kind of started pinning the murders on him. Is that? Did I read that properly?
Oh yeah. She killed. Yeah, she basically used him to make everybody believe he was Holiday to get it off of her and Harvey.
Right. So I mean, was Harvey killing people before he was Two-Face? That's kind of up in the air, isn't it?
Yeah. I think because the point where she says he's when he came in, I think he took over where she left off.
Mm-hmm.
So when she left off, basically when he was where she was talking to him about his wet hair, and he was wearing a hat, and he was talking about his hair being wet. And it was going outside or something like that. And she's talking about that when she's throwing up the fire, burning the hat and the coat and everything. I think that was left at the scene. And I think he picked it and brought it back. But I think at that point on, I think he was killing people from that point on.
Yeah, it seemed like because I went to some websites and did a little bit of research. And it didn't seem like there was a clear answer, or other people had different theories on who did the killing when. But it seemed like a lot of the consensus was that Gilda was the first one, so she somehow did the initial Halloween, plus somehow, and this is the one I think causes the most confusion, she also did the Thanksgiving killing, which she was laid up in the hospital bed on Thanksgiving.
She said she left the hospital when he was sitting there waiting for her or whatever. She ended up leaving. So I don't know how she left the hospital.
Yeah.
So that didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, so that's the one that was kind of like a red flag to me. I'm just like, how did she do that? I mean, I guess I could have handled it if they at least had one panel that showed her getting out of the hospital bed after Harvey left, but we never really get that. But maybe that's part of the mystery of all of this, is just the fact that like you can make your own conclusions, and you kind of know all these people have their hands dirty, I guess. John, what did you make of all of this?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that one of my favorite things about this is the idea that a broken family like the Dents would view holidays in a way that is frustrated, and the idea that either Harvey or Gilda would feel like their family life was being robbed from them because of all the villains surrounding them and all the people taking attention from their relationship. And I think that's one of the things I think sets up Gilda and or Harvey as the villains in this piece. And whether you believe, and there are plenty of discussion topics all scattered across Reddit and whatever about whether or not Gilda committed the crimes or whether she's taking the rap for Harvey when she gives her speech at the end to cover for him in some way, whether she's trying to come up with an excuse to cover for her husband's misdeeds. There's a lot of perspectives on the fact that this Dent family was being scarred and sort of the flaws in their relationship were being torn apart because of her husband's inability to separate work and family. And it was a beautifully laid out, in my opinion, relationship that even at the very beginning, when we first see Gilda and we first see Harvey, we see that their relationship is flawed. we see that their connectivity is based solely on the amount of time they spend together, and not being able to rectify the fact that Harvey is going to spend these late nights chasing criminals. And there's a simplicity to that bleeds out across the 13 issues for me. And I think that's what makes this work across, whether you think Harvey committed the crimes or Gilda, or whether it's both of them. It's based on the fact that their relationship was destroyed by her husband's inability to balance work and family.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. What about you, Jason? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off earlier.
No, you're good. I just happened to come across, I was scrolling through the comic, and I was like, oh, yeah, another thing no one took, the burning of the money.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Some people just want to watch the world burn, watch money burn.
Harvey just wanted to pocket some of that cash.
He did. He's like,
Come on, aren't you a millionaire like me? Set it on fire.
I don't need that money. This is burning.
Batman burns the freaking money this time, not the freaking Joker. I love it.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
That was a great scene.
Harvey and his wife probably could have had a really nice life if they took some of that money and just went on vacation for a week.
I love
the Joker killed a few people in there, so is he Holiday?
I love this part as well. I'm sure. Sorry, the brightness is up, but it's like a villain that's running away, but he jumps down a hotel sign and he like busts all the lights going down. I thought that was a really sick panel. That's one of my favorites of the whole entire comic book. That's so fun. And it was so fun seeing Salman Grandi get his face punched in, and then he's like gets really pissed at the end.
I know.
Actually, kind of speaking of that, like the best Batman part was definitely at the end where Two-Face has assembled all the rogues, and Batman knows he has to like take care of this quickly. And his inner dialogue where he's kind of comparing himself to his father a little bit about how he was so surgical, and you kind of see his thought process, why he takes down Grundy first and then goes from there. I absolutely love that scene. I guess we really didn't get a chance to talk too much about that.
That was really cool.
He's prepared to take out all the villains, but can't catch one gangland murderer. The goddamn course of a year.
Yeah, he refilled Arkham in like 2 seconds.
Yeah. Dude,
all right, Andy.
Great there. He was a surgeon, and they were prepared. Like it was exactly what he needed for the fight. Like that was cool.
Yep.
All right, Andy, what did you think about all the killers being revealed here? Did you make sense out of it, or are you still scratching your head?
I'm not scratching my head. I made sense out of it, and I agree with you. I like that surgical approach in the inner dialogue, talking about his father and kind of that flashback that we were given earlier that helped explain that a little more too in the story. I enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm a fan of a lot of the characters in the Batman universe, more so than I am of Batman. Mm-hmm. So this was a great treat to see everybody there and that room ready to go.
All right, I think it's finally time. We're past. Yeah, go ahead.
Wait. Really quick around the horn. Did everybody have a favorite issue, and which issue was your favorite out of the whole thing?
Oof. I think the first issue was my favorite.
John?
Man, I've never tried to separate one piece from the entirety here. I will say I love, I said earlier that this is like a Batman light story where 13 issues, you get very little of, you don't see Bruce brooding in the Batcave, typing away on the Bat computer. You don't see Bruce wandering through the mansion or all these things. I do love the story where you get to see, I think it's over Mother's Day and Father's Day, and you get to see Bruce really break down and go to the grave of his parents and deal with it. I thought I think it's Mother's Day and Father's Day combined for me that have this arc for Bruce where you see that it's still a super raw wound. It's super early in this process for him. And he's finally like redeeming what he thinks would be the hopes for him. And you see him dealing with Crime Alley and then being chased by the police to her grave. And Dent and Commissioner Gordon are basically hunting him. I think that sequence across those two issues, Mother's Day and Father's Day, would probably be the more powerful stuff.
Yeah, Gretzky, you?
I'm trying to find it here, but I don't know, because I've actually liked them all, but I would probably say probably my least favorite was April Fool's Day. Basically, with just having the Riddler there doing nothing. I didn't like that Riddler. I don't know what it is about that Riddler for me, but it's just he was just terrible in the sense of that. But I love the thing where you had in most of the issues you had Batman and Catwoman basically having that love-hate relationship with each other. So they played off of that a little bit, but I would probably say can't remember which issue it was, but it was the issue where he went and talked to Calendar Man, and he was sitting there spewing all the dates in February. I guess it would probably be Valentine's Day. That issue, if I'm not mistaken, or was that Christmas? No, it must have been Valentine's. Is that Valentine's
I think
Day?
it was one or the other. Yeah,
I can't remember. He was talking about Groundhog's Day, Boxing Day, all that crap. And when he was the one with I think that was Christmas. I think that was the one right after. I think the one with the Joker, which I didn't like that Joker either, but I can see that they probably pulled from like the older Joker, not like didn't look like the 90s Joker, I guess, at that time frame.
It looked like it was drawn by like Sam Keith or something.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yeah, that's what I was
it's pretty crazy. And I'm sorry, my brightness is too high up.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out. Like
it looks like a damn ice cream cone.
Yeah, but I had a lot of fun with that one though. That's kind of one of them that stuck out.
Yeah,
with me.
I'd probably say
stuck out with me too as terrible.
Yeah, the Joker flying around in that plane, but he actually killed people. So I would, you would think, oh, he might be Holiday because he's killing people.
Didn't he really only show up to kind of bitch about the fact that Holiday was stealing his thunder?
Yeah.
I think that's all he cared about was the fact that he was like he
got Batman's attention, got his girl's attention.
Yeah. It's like I'm here because I got to be here because Batman's in it.
I think the issue I was going to pick was St. Patrick's Day because it's the one where Poison Ivy takes control of Bruce Wayne, and it just shows how it's like Gretzky said, that love-hate relationship between Catwoman and Batman, or Selina and Bruce, if you prefer. It shows how strong their relationship really is, and meanwhile, it shows how desperate the crime families are getting, that they're hiring these freaks, these rogues gallery people. So just the fact that he's passing Poison Ivy money on the table at the very end, that shows you how low these guys are sinking, basically. So I really enjoyed all the stuff that was going on in this 25-page issue. They put in a lot in there.
I like to imagine like the Patty's Day statue is really huge. They carry around like a huge lawn gnome with them,
That's what I wondered.
I was torn between the St. Patty's Day issue and the Independence Day issue, because the Independence Day issue, that was the Scarecrow and Mad Hatter issue, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah, that was great. Yeah, that was a great one.
Yeah,
that's a great spread there with the
they were
Scarecrow and that
awesome.
horse.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then Batman beating the hell out of him.
He enjoyed breaking his ribs.
Yeah, and then it's funny you mentioned that, because then the Haunted Night, in that first trade, you pretty much get to see them team up for the first time, I believe. Scarecrow and that whole team, and I think Poison Ivy's even worked into that team up as well. So
it's like
them working together again.
Right away, it's like two double page spreads, like the huge one that Andy showed earlier, and like that one also, that the horse getting punched, like
his tongue sticking out.
Beautiful.
All right, we ready for some grades on this?
Let's grade it.
Drew, I'll start with you.
8.8. White pages. Good, not great. 8.8.
You want to go next, John?
Yeah, I'd probably go 9.4.
What about you?
Very, very, very good, and right there with year one for me.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Gretzky.
10.
Nice.
10. I give it a 10.
10.
Yeah, I love it. It's like that and Dark Victory, and then what was the other one that I liked? I mean, it's probably better than that one Batman story where we went back in the the 1800s. Gotham
Oh,
by
yeah.
Gaslight.
1802.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Gotham by Gaslight. It was better than that one. So I'd say, but I've heard they're talking about they were going to make this either into a miniseries
That'd be great.
or a movie at some point. They were talking about it, but I don't know where they're going now. I don't know if it'll ever happen.
They're going to make it a movie, and the Riddler is going to be the killer.
It's called Hush. But anyway,
Hush.
Jason,
Bored
what about
Riddler.
you,
Somebody
man?
did the Hush.
Yeah, the Bored Riddler.
I'll probably give it like a 9.0, maybe a 9.2 if I put myself outside of like my own understanding of what Batman is, like pretending like it's the first time reading it, reading a Batman book. I think it would go high up there right away. I'm gonna go with 9.2.
Andy?
Ooh, I'm going 9.4, and I'm gonna go on to say that this is probably my favorite digital read currently that we've all done. This reads absolutely fantastic on Comixology, full screen, double page, 2-page spread. I really enjoyed it, and I hate reading digitally if I can get the real book, but I feel like I actually think I would have preferred digital over the real book because those 2-page spreads would have that bend in the middle when you're trying to read a trade.
Yeah,
I got to read this in full 30-inch computer monitor, widescreen, double page. I'm like, that was pretty epic. And I'm at a 9.4, and I'm gonna go on to say that this is a Batman required reading for anybody that is interested in Batman or dipping into Batman, or if they're a Batman fan and they've never read it, they better read it now because this is in the top 10 Batman reads of all time, I bet.
Andy, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Have you read Hush?
No.
Read Hush.
I'd be curious to hear Andy's opinion on it since this is so fresh in his mind now and all that stuff. I mean, they have a lot.
He does have a wild card.
Let's read it next.
True. So I'm going to go
Immortal Hulk and its comeback.
He'll wait another week, and I think I'm going to go and give it a 9.4 as well, like John and Andy. I think for me, it's a solid. It's a long haul, it really is. But hey, long Halloween. It's in the title, of course.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's a phenomenal entry level read for any comic book fan. If you're just looking to, if you just say like you're just getting into comics, you just read Watchmen, V for Vendetta, and or Dark Knight Returns, and you're looking for the next step basically, and you really enjoyed Dark Knight Returns, so you want to get another Batman book. You go to the local shop, like, hey, I want to buy a Batman book. What do you recommend? I would probably say look for this trade, pick it up, and see what you think. At least it at least hits on all the villains for the most part, except for a handful, which they'll show up in Dark Victory, I'm sure. So you get all your villains, you get a great Batman and Gordon story, you get to see the downfall of Harvey Dent. If you're familiar with the Christopher Nolan movies, you're going to see so many things that they pulled from this that you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's where the source material.
That's definitely why it ranks a lot more higher in my mind. It's just thinking objectively outside of yourself. And this one I would also say is definitely more thought out than Hush.
I agree.
Like Hush, you have a lot of coincidences, or just pop up like, oh, I'm here, and like, okay, well,
but it just like a woman, you ignore those because it's pretty.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that was like the only warning. The Tim Sale art, I prefer. I like his noir style, like John was talking about earlier. In this, like, I would not replace him for Long Halloween. That being said, his art style is not for everybody. I think we've kind of explained that throughout the show. There are going to be people who read it and do not enjoy it. Go ahead, Gretzky.
Yeah, it's like that. What did he do? That's with Loeb, that Spider-Man story, Spider-Man Blue or something.
Oh
Spider-Man Blue.
Yep.
Yeah,
I liked them on Captain America White. I thought that that with the level they found of like a nostalgic look at kind of old school comics, golden age comics, and the way that they kind of tied his style to that really worked for Captain America. I did not like that Spider-Man Blue book at all.
I really like Mike Mignola, and so I feel like this sometimes had that Mignola feel. He's used to shade and the darker pages like that in shadow. It really excelled in that way, in that kind of style. And I wish I want to see more of that.
He's like sloppy Mignola.
I want to read that black and white noir version. I think that'll like translate really well.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah, and then Gore Vidal said in the chat, many of his millennial friends who got into Batman comics by reading Scott Snyder stuff really enjoyed the Long Halloween. That's an interesting point. I never really thought about people who have gotten into the New 52 backpedaling.
Yeah.
But yeah, they probably really enjoy it too. And by the way, I do want to say special shout out to Patrick Wall and Count Von Strange for joining the chat as well. I didn't get a chance to say hi to them yet. But yeah,
to speak to Gore's assessment there, I can actually see that because there are things about this that are very, very much taken up by the Snyder run. The importance of old Gotham, the importance of old families and old money, the way that he works the villains in and out of that story as he's telling it. I think that takes a lot from the way Loeb tells the stories in both Long Halloween and Hush. I think that the pacing that he uses in this story was a little bit off for me. But I for the average new Batman fan, I think that they would take a lot more away from it, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
All right, so that kind of wraps up our review of Long Halloween. So I think it's time. Andy, are these numbers down there accurate? How are we doing on the poll? Who won? What are we reading?
Those numbers are current and accurate with 44 votes tallied tonight. And it looks like Immortal Hulk is the winner.
Yes.
Wow.
My vote
counted. A lot of switching.
We'll see next time for
Wait to shit on issue number 3 of that book.
We'll see it for Hush. Yeah.
Yeah. So if Andy's got that wild card handy. Yeah. We'll be reading Immortal Hulk next week. I'm sure we'll have an additional topic. But the other reveal we have, and let me get the banner up here. I guess we can, speaking of banners, we can get rid of that now since that's officially closed. Is for Drew, this is for you. I know we need to cleanse
Snick, baby. Here come comics.
From all of these crises and all this Batman you've had to read in the last 5 weeks. We're giving you the X-Men Special Part 2, week 56.
I voted on that.
Real comics.
Snick.
Finally.
So,
Finally,
go,
we're getting
Drew.
some Marvel. We're getting some X-Men. We're getting some quality reads. And I want everybody to know when you vote on these choices that one of them is a giant tome and the other one is a 2-issue arc. Take pity on us, please. I got shit to do this week.
Well, we've got a pretty close race already. We've got Age of Apocalypse is our first entry onto the list. So that's the one that Drew said was a giant tome. We may kind of just cut a lot of things out. We may just stick to X-Men Alpha.
If it wins, I'll read the entire omnibus.
Okay, Drew's going to read the entire Omni and let me and Andy know what he thought.
I got to change my vote.
We got the Onslaught Saga, once again by Lobdell and Mark Waid, for sure. Messiah
Wade.
Complex. This actually, I'm going to put my vote on Messiah Complex. That's the one I'm rooting for. You get Brubaker, you get Peter David, you get Craig Kyle Christios, a bunch of other writers and artists. Highly underrated X-Men read. One of my favorites. Actually, is one of the first hardcovers I ever bought. This was one of the first trades I got. Later down the line, I got that Messiah Complex and started the shelves over here. We also got Days of Future Past by Chris Claremont, the OG 2-issue run.
2 issues, baby.
Yeah.
Give us a vacation.
That. And surprisingly, kind of in last right now, Uncanny X-Force by Rick Remender. A great run that I'm surprised doesn't have a couple more votes behind it.
You know what I think is
Remender.
I think there's a blind spot in the community for that because I sold a bunch of those books not long ago, and they did not fetch what they were worth. In my opinion, I think that's an underappreciated story arc, and I'm going to throw my support behind Uncanny X-Force. You guys like Archangel and Psylocke and Deadpool and Wolverine and Black Ops mutant shit and fighting Apocalypse. Let's do this, man.
Nice. All right, we'll start with the bottom here. So, Jason, where can people find you?
You can find me right here on the Comic Core every Wednesday. And what are we doing? A new comic book day thing again? Wednesday, Drew, Andy?
I don't know. Last week there was a Baltimore Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't go live to compete with that. But Andy, are you hunting?
Oh, I'll be around.
You'll be around?
I'll be around.
Okay. Are you going to run a show on Thursday, or am I running a show on Thursday?
Thursday I won't be doing anything at all.
Okay.
What do we want to do a Thursday talk show, Jason?
I thought we were on the bottom row. Why is Drew taking over? What the heck?
Jason had questions about programming.
Hey man, we're letting you know fresh off the press.
Trying to get to the bottom of
hot
it.
news, right?
Exclusive.
I got Comic Core news fresh
Burt
right here, big one.
Call
New
me,
show
man.
Thursday. See you there.
The Cantu Manchu review, whatever you guys call it. There it is, right there. This show's coming on Thursday. Cantu Manchu review
Coming.
show. There you go. You might see a guest there that's not me or Andy or. All right, we'll move on. Gretzky, where can people find you?
Probably on my channel or running around on somebody else's channel if I get invited, or Instagram. Find me doing something there. Got a couple videos I want to do. I was supposed to do them today, but never got around to it. So hopefully this week I'll do a couple. I need to get it an air contest. So I need to do that.
You don't have much more time left. Like one more week.
I know.
He's up to 500 subs. So I know that we're not
Nice.
on the top row yet, but I want to go ahead and blow that up real quick before John yells at me. That means extra prizes, folks.
Ooh, it does. That's right.
All right, John, where can people find you this week?
My mom is doing a live stream meeting with me and my brother, so I'm going to bounce out of here in a second. But yeah, John's Comics with Kids, and of course on Wednesdays with a couple of these guys here, but not this guy because he just takes over the whole thing. We don't
I
need
will
more.
jump in.
We don't need more of that.
I've
need
got
less of that.
StreamYard permissions, baby. I'm going to ruin your show.
Love you guys.
All right, thanks a lot, John. Drew, where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me here spitting the truth Monday nights about books that you are all overrating. Beyond that, we're going to give an X-Men book a 10 next week. I don't know which one it is yet, but 2 weeks, we're going to give an X-Men book a 10.
Yeah,
So
you got to give
get
a
ready for
Mortal
that.
Hulk a 5 next week or whatever.
I will not probably be giving it a
It's a
5.
Marvel
but,
book. It'll be a 9.
that
5.
issue, look, reread it. That issue number 3 is one rough fucking issue. It might be one of the worst issues in recent memory, in my opinion. So that might drastically change the score on that. But yeah, you can find me around. I'll be around.
What about you, Andy?
Oh, hey, people can find me at ComicManAndy on all your social media platforms, and check out my channel where I'm doing 20-minute, Monday shows and Wednesday shows, the mail call and new comic book day shows. You guys can find me here on Modern Men every Monday night and Wednesday, occasionally hanging out with that Wednesday crew.
Yeah, you can also find Comic Man Andy in The Last Con on Bear Island Comics channel.
Right.
He is featured, criminally underfeatured, in my opinion. But check out the end because he's got some great snippets in the blooper reel. Big fan of that Comic Man Andy guy.
If you want to see,
I'm excited to watch that on Bear Island Comics.
if you want to see Andy buy a comb, check out this documentary. I laughed so hard when Andy filmed himself buying a comb at like a Target, who knows where. It's almost worth it just for that scene for me. But yeah, a big, huge shout to Bear Island, man. He knocked it out of the park on that one. If you guys hadn't had a chance to check out The Last Con, for sure, check that documentary out. He killed it on that. But you guys can find me youtube.com/Seawater19. Got a stacked lineup this week. We're still doing October reads every single night at midnight. Will be a new video uploaded. I think tonight's 27 by Charles Soule for October 27th.
Ooh.
So check that one out. Tomorrow, another stacked lineup. We got the Tuesday night live stream. Special start time, 6 p.m. Eastern, followed by 8 p.m. Eastern. Turtle Talk Tuesday with this guy over here. We'll be reading the TMNT IDW run, volume 6 and 7. Maybe Chad 90 will join us, 90 Miles from Comics. Hopefully he'll get a chance to make it this week. And then my contest will have an update probably around Thursday time. I crossed 500 subscribers, so big thanks, guys, for the support over there. So that means I got to make another priority box, which I have right here. I just need to put comic books and such in it. And then actually Wednesday, I think I'm going to try to sneak in a review of TMNT The Last Ronin. As soon as I can get it read, I will post a review of it.
Nice.
And of course, Friday, whatever that show's called, I guess Roundtable. We'll see what happens. I think there's supposed to be a poll between the Wolfman and whoever, Dracula. I think. Just
Hey,
let
if
us
you want to come
know,
on
I
the
guess.
Thursday night show and talk Last Ronin, we can make that our topic.
We'll see what I feel like. Like I said,
If you're
I
up and
just moved the whole
around, you
bunch.
let me know.
Oh, and then Comics of the Atom. Mike and I recorded yesterday. Comics of the Atom is up on iTunes and should be up on pretty much every streaming service. Hopefully by this point, you guys watch this. So Big thank you guys once again for checking out Modern Men. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. Stay modern? Is that what we're saying?